same question of why would they do a business relationship with a company from Pakistan? They don't know Pakistan. They don't know the company from Pakistan. So when you talk to anyone in the Nordics, the first thing they tell you is that these societies are trust-based societies. So the IT industry right now, I mean, it has demonstrated over the last 3 years where our exports, the ones that are reported by the State Bank of Pakistan, actual figures would be higher, have increased from about $1 billion in 2020 to over $2.5 billion last year. Our community is a very important factor because if they are working here or they have their own businesses here, so it would be easier for the locals to trust them in terms of connecting it to other third country players. The best entry points for the market would be through our organizations.
Hello, folks. Nael Shahbaz from InvoTalks is here, powered by InvoZone. InvoZone is a software development company who provides software development products and solutions and remote teams of software engineers in the hard-to-find programming languages such as Elixir, React, ROR, and Laravel. We also have the largest team of blockchain engineers in Pakistan under the brand InvoBlocks, and Unity and Unreal developers under the brand name of Invo Games. And today our guest is Mr. Ahmed Farooq. He is the ambassador of Pakistan to Denmark. He has been in foreign services since the year 2000, so a long career indeed. Hello, Mr. Ahmed Farooq. How is it going? How's your day going?
Thank you very much, Nael, for having me on your forum. So it's good and looks positive.
Yeah, so first question is the most obvious one. What got you interested in foreign services or representing Pakistan on a global scale?
Well, like you mentioned, so I joined the Foreign Service of Pakistan way back in 1999. So it's been almost 25 years that I've been a career diplomat for Pakistan. And the reason for that, I would say, is that I think it is perhaps the highest honor or distinction for a citizen of any country to represent it at international forums in front of other governments. And then you get a lot of respect from different stakeholders around the world. So I think there cannot be a bigger honor for anyone, than to represent your country. And I have had some tremendous opportunities for doing that. So I've served at the Pakistan mission to the United Nations in New York. I've also served in our embassy in Rome, and there also, I used to deal mainly with the work of the UN agencies that are based in Rome. And then also I had an earlier posting at our Consulate General in Los Angeles. So I've been now the ambassador of Pakistan to the Kingdom of Denmark for the last 3 years. So I would say it's been a pretty exciting career for me so far.
May I ask something? I noticed that you did your bachelor's in engineering and then had international relationships degree. So what got you to move or switch to that path? Was there a turning point?
Well, I think the main reason, so I graduated in 1993 and perhaps, and then, I specialized in electronics. So perhaps that was not a good time for electronics engineers in Pakistan. There was no real engineering work that was going on. And most of my classmates, they joined, different companies as sales or kind of maintenance engineer. So this was not something that I liked. My interest was more to go into some engineering aspect and then go into design and, as what engineers are required to do to find solutions to problems. So when I found that there was very little opportunity for that, then, I felt perhaps a better option would be to serve the country by joining the civil service. So actually, before the foreign service, I was also, I worked for the income tax department for a couple of years. So that, also is before, after the engineering period, I was in income tax. And then I took the exam again. I didn't like that profession as well. And I was always drawn to joining the foreign service. So I had to take the whole CSS exam one more time, and I ended up here.
More. Well, in the context of the conversation, of course, we can talk about the foreign services, but I am more interested in the tech sector of the Nordic region. And actually, that's where I met Mr. Ahmed. We went to Denmark to exhibit for InvoZone. And I want to ask, Nordic region represents a lot of opportunities in the tech sector, a lot of startups. But the main exporters for Pakistan are US, UK, UAE, Canada, Singapore. Why is it that we're still unable to penetrate into this region? Because when we were there, we were expecting language barrier, which is not the case. So what's the hurdle in your opinion?
I think, Nael, you're very right. The Nordics countries, which includes Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, they represent these four countries combined represent a huge market, of which I think we are not, our tech sector has not been aware of. So if you were to just look at Denmark, the total size of the ICT market in this country is about $35 billion. So out of that, 20 billion are the IT services. So I guess, being an English speaking country, I mean, our education is in English, and most of our diaspora also has settled in countries, in English speaking countries. So we were not actually aware of the opportunities that are available in the Nordics countries, and that's why we generally gravitated towards all the English-speaking countries. So, as you have rightly said, and this is something that you found out when you visited here, that I mean, this is in terms of, I think one of the fears that we had perhaps was that there could be a language barrier. So, and you have discovered yourself that practically everybody in this country speaks English, because English is taught right from the beginning in schools. So that barrier is not there, and more so for the IT industry, where English is the generally spoken language, even within the companies. So this is something that when I came here, I realized that for us, I think when we look at opportunities for exports, IT represents the best hope. And this is when I started to work on this, and with the support of also our diaspora that is working in the IT field in this country. So I was perhaps the first one who then coordinated with the Pakistan Software Export Board, the Ministry of IT, and we invited, for the first time, a delegation. And that happened in 2021. And we are continuing our efforts since then.
Right. I was actually about to ask the same thing of participation. You mentioned in 2021, you held this forum. In comparison to the past decade, do you think the Pakistani companies are getting involved more in expos and exhibitions? If that's the case, why is it so?
I believe when you look at the global picture, there is a bigger effort on part of the government and also on part of the industry itself to go out in different parts of the world and present ourselves. And I think, as I said earlier, IT actually represents the best hope for the country, in terms of coming out of the economic challenges that we are presently facing. We don't see the kind of innovation in other sectors. Our textiles, the exports are heavily dominated by garments and textiles. And there, I think there is no further, there is room to grow, but not to the extent that, it helps in dealing with our economic challenges. Whereas the IT industry right now, it has demonstrated over the last 3 years where our exports, the ones that, are reported by the State Bank of Pakistan, actual figures would be higher, have increased from about $1 billion in 2020 to over $2.5 billion last year. So it's over 150% increase that has happened. And I am very quite hopeful and very sure that this trajectory could be maintained, and if provided we continue to focus on it in terms of reaching out and promoting and marketing the brand Pakistan that we have.
I want to go back to the making it into the Nordic region markets for Pakistani companies. Do you think community support matters? And how much does it count? Do you need people, references who can connect you with buyers and sellers? So how do you see this picture?
This is a very important question that you have asked. So when you talk to anyone in the Nordics, the first thing they tell you is that these societies are trust-based societies. So they have a trust-based relationship amongst each other. They have a trust-based relationship with their government. So that is why the tax collection in these countries is very high, because people trust their governments in paying their taxes because they see they get a return. So now when it comes to outsiders, then again there is the same question of why would they do a business relationship with a company from Pakistan? They don't know Pakistan. They don't know the company from Pakistan. So there has to be some in between connection that they need, that they trust, and on the basis of which they can establish a new business relationship. So there, our community is a very important factor, because if they are working here or they have their own businesses here, so it would be easier for the locals to trust them in terms of connecting it to other third country players. One of the things that we did this time around, and I think you are aware that we had last week a delegation comprising of 22 companies for the first time, and that just came on a country visit to Denmark. And the activities that we organized for them were in collaboration with the two largest business and industries associations of the country. So it's the Danish, Confederation of Industries, and the Danish Chamber of Commerce. And we had interaction with their leadership, and this is exactly what they said, that it's a trust-based society, and the best entry points for the market would be through our organizations, because almost all Danish businesses are members of either of the two organizations. So if we were to establish trust with you, then we would be able to sell your businesses to our members, but not before that. So this was sort of the first step. So that is why. So it's the diaspora. It's these kind of platforms that are much needed for making a solid entry into this market.
So how does a small to medium and software company in Pakistan gets in touch with the Danish Chamber of Commerce to find companies who are already registered with the Chamber of Commerce and have common grounds with them? Is that the way to go?
No, I think so. They participated, they cooperated with the embassy because for them it was easier to trust the embassy. So this was the sort of the first step. And going forward, also the best way would be to operate through the embassy. We are sort of your local representation right now. But in future, and this is something that I think when you came here, I mentioned to you, and I've been mentioning it to all the companies that have so far come here, that eventually you need to establish a local presence, a small marketing office in this country if you were to be taken seriously and companies and organizations were to trust you. And just this time around, we were able to, we came across a Pakistani company that has a local marketing office. So for me, I didn't know about it, but when we started advertising for this delegation, a company came forward and they said the name is Kodora. And I thought that it's a Danish company, but they told us that no, we are the marketing office of a Pakistani company. So they had hired two, a Danish person, ethnic Dane, a local from the Pakistani diaspora, and there's one person who has come from Pakistan. So this is, I think, eventually the way forward in terms if we want to really establish our brand in this country. And that is how it is from companies from other countries as well.
That's very interesting because I was reading reports of potential in Pakistan. I mean, there are innumerable articles telling how the youth of Pakistan can be a game changer, the IT sector and growth. But that's just looking at it in a silo. So compare that to Bangladesh and India. They are also way ahead. I mean, specifically in India, there's no comparison. I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way. But when you mention this trust-based factor, this might be a leverage for us. Do you agree with that?
Yes. So when you mention of those countries, you have to obviously understand that India started, way before us. I mean, they have maybe around 15 to 20 years lead over us. So that's why, I mean, it's a bigger country and they started earlier, so they have gone ahead of us. But I would also like to, inform your viewers that, as I mentioned, about the need for local market presence. There are over 20 Indian companies which have local offices here. So these obviously include the bigger ones, but then also the small, the medium and the small ones. So they are present here. Their local presence allows them to directly go market for themselves. The Danish companies, they have a comfort level that in case something goes wrong, they could talk to somebody locally rather than, thinking that the person is sitting 5,000 kilometers away. So all these factors, I think they help. And it's a risk. Obviously, every business, you sometimes you have to take a risk, a calculated risk, I would say. I think our bigger companies, they need to really start focusing on that because that will help the smaller ones as well. Once we establish a good name for Pakistan, I'm sure it will become easier and easier for Danish companies, smaller companies to, do business with smaller Pakistani companies. So I think this is the way to go forward.
I want to go back to what you said from your engineering days, finding solutions to problems. Do you think that this is bringing you satisfaction by bridging this gap, providing access to Pakistani companies to the IT sector of the Nordic region?
I would say, it is for me the most satisfying of all the different projects that I have undertaken here because I basically started from scratch. We had not done any such thing in the past. And to see now that we have reached a stage where we had a very successful visit by a larger group of companies, and within them also, this time around, we had the bigger companies as well. And they were all, they said that their eyes had been opened to the opportunities that are available in this market. And there's a very interesting case. There was a small company that basically is just they're doing what their business model is, that they don't have an office in Pakistan, and all their workers are working remotely from different regions of the country. So we had a similar request from two Pakistani, origin Danish persons, that they wanted to have a similar model in Pakistan, whereby they don't just want to get their workers from the bigger cities. They want to reach out to the remote areas. So we were able to connect these two, companies, and they are really looking forward to very rapidly scale up from about 100 people in a few months to 500 people. So, I mean, if the work that I have done is leading to this kind of a job creation, I think nothing can be more satisfying.
Glad to hear that. Where do you see these efforts going within the next 10 years? Where do you see Pakistan in terms of having a presence in the Nordic or Scandinavian region?
Well, I think I see a very bright future, and frankly, I've now come across almost 40 to 45 companies in the last 2.5 years that I've been here. And I really see that if there is a potential, you people are all very bright, and you give us the hope that Pakistan has a bright future. So we need to persist with our efforts, and this is something that I am, after the visit of this delegation, also recommending to the Pakistan Software Export Board, to the Ministry of Information Technology, that we have made an opening, but we need to persist with it. We need to continue coming here repeatedly. We have to, maybe use now more tools that are available for us to improve our marketing efforts. And most importantly, as I said, our companies need to start taking that risk of establishing local presence, either themselves or in partnership with some, local partners. So I think if we continue on this trajectory, I think we have a very bright future. There's a big market, and we just have to carve out our share in it.
I couldn't agree more. That's so true. Consistency is the key. You cannot just have like a one-time presence or one-time effort and then expect. So I totally agree. All right, we've reached the end of my questions. Just to recap for our viewers, trust-based societies, that is the key. If you want to have access to the Nordic or Scandinavian region, especially in the IT sector, you have to build trust with the companies, or as Mr. Ahmed said, have a local presence so the companies feel comfortable that they can talk to someone if something goes wrong. So in that words, I thank you, Mr. Ahmed. It was a pleasure talking to you. Looking forward to having more conversation. And thank you for the wonderful dinner I had at the embassy. So looking forward to see you again this year as well.
Thank you very much, Nael, for having me on your platform. And really, it's for me an honor to serve our industry.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.